Hello and welcome back to the Unity of Austin under Keats. Today, we start with the cure. Keats pushed open the door to the lab, poking his head through. The lights were off. "Is anyone here?" he called. "Ah, Keats! Yes, sorry, give us a second." The lights turned after a pause, and a human scientist walked over to the mayor. "Sorry about that. Some of our tests are best run in the dark. Come see for yourself." Keats made his way to a glass wall the other super mutant scientists were staring through. Being mindful not to bump into their clean lab coats as he moved inside the glass box was an empty chair. The lights turned off once he started focusing. One of the scientists held the microscope to his mouth and spoke into it. "Subject, please recall to answer to riddle number 5. "Okay," came an amplified voice from inside the room with a chair. 30 white horses on a red hill. First, the scientist didn't have time to finish. "Teef, I didn't remember dat one." The scientist turned on the lights and looked expectantly towards Keats. Inside the glass room, a nightkin dropped his cloak and started laughing maniacally while he tried to dance to the tune of a song nobody could hear. "It's not a perfect solution, but by and large, I think we've done it." Is that enough progress for a speech? Keats was having a rather poor morning, but his smile couldn't have been wider as he started considering how best to phrase the news to an ecstatic public. "Gentlemen, you may have just saved 1,000 lives today. We've completed ongoing Nightkin research to get some political power, and we are able to deploy more Nightkins." Woo! Let me see where Nightkin... Hello, Nightkins? Where's the... Oh, there it is. Nitro schizophrenia cured. Our research into Nightkin schizophrenia has not gone unrewarded. Already our resident Nightkins are all beginning to feel more calm and at home among the normal citizens of Austin. And training programs are both reduce stealth boy usage and to remedy the issue in stealth boy production are working wonders in making both the Nightkin and their neighbors feel just a little bit safer at night. Woo! Well, I definitely want you eventually. Sure. Humane mutants. Despite the impossibilities set ahead of us, we have, in a short span of time, solved 2 of the most pressing issues to mutant kind. Our Unity is quickly becoming recognized as a bastion of mutant rights and a safe haven for persecuted super mutants across the entire wasteland. Mutants from across North America are starting to make their way towards us to have their schizophrenia treated and their infertility reversed. Woo! We're doing it! You hearing that? We're probably heroes to a whole bunch. I mean, yeah, that. Okay, I want you guys to go down there. And just you 4 guys deal with that. Because I want you guys to rush southward. And then I want some of you guys to rush that way. Whatever, you guys just do whatever. Okay, now I can get something else for you. I want, where's that thing at? Yeah, Smooth Talker. And you know what? Everyone just kind of go forward some. Try to do a vague push to just distract the enemy for a bit. Speed? No, I'd rather get just general toughness in a whole bunch of different ways, personally. Okay, I want you guys just to push southward. I want you guys to push kind of center southward. And then I want you guys to just rush for there and there. I said I want you guys to do that, and I said that on purpose because I want you guys to stall. So please, stall. Oh, okay. You just stop your current thing. Do that instead. Woo! There we go. As any nation own a state with a maximum infrastructure? Oh, okay, cool. I mean, I was thinking, I just wanted in war, but sure. Dude, I could have done that by just starting as that nation. Alright. 2282. What's that? Oh, okay. New plan. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I gotta go all the way down there to be able to complete that. Divert raid. Alright. Victory in the three-way war. Despite the forces arrayed against us, we prevailed. Keats and the unity of Austin proved to the world that the ideas of true unity will always prevail against the forced conquest of shale and the mindless barbarianism of the ironmongers. Once we finish integrating these new lands and teaching our new citizens our ways, we may go forth in unity to create a better, stronger future for all of Texas. Oh, and the followers rejected. Having worked out we have been behind successive attempts to undermine their influence and steal their supplies, the followers of the apocalypse have finally grown tired of our antics and left our lands. Whilst they're still happy to tend to our citizens and bases set up around the border, they refuse to step foot inside our nation in protest. We say good riddance. Their anarchist kind have no business here except attempting to overthrow us. Our people are somewhat annoyed at our choice of action, but at least they'll no longer be swayed by the followers' propaganda. We did well. And that gives us the followers of the apocalypse rejected. The followers attempted to spread their filthy anarchist tendrils into our nation, but we resisted their grasp. Our nation was forever changed by the process, though. Woo! More troops, you know? Not quite. We need more manpower to be able to really build more troops in a general. I'm surprised I didn't do this early on. I probably should have done that. That'll be the next thing I do, you know? Oops. The old-fashioned gallows. Keats walked up to the platform, taking in the crowd's thunderous applause with every silent footstep. The platform had a lavish view of Austin's newly renovated city center. Despite how big the center was, not an inch of ground could be seen past every mutant and human packed tight against each other. Shale, the monster of Texas and the mutant responsible for so much destruction, stood with his head held high, despite the chains around his feet and the noose around his neck. Juggernaut, the master of the Ironmongers faction in the south, and the inventor of a host of machines responsible for many of Austin's casualties in the recent war, stood adjacent to him with his head slightly bowed. "Citizens of Austin!" Keats roared into the mic, and the crowd howled back. "Citizens of our unity!" he shouted. "Unity!" came the united response. "These two muties were our greatest enemies until yesterday," he continued loudly, while pacing back and forth. "Shale, the greatest and longest-lasting enemy of our unity, stands here in chains and at our mercy. Juggernaut, the most savage mutant raider who has ever roamed Texas, stands next to him. All we survey has now joined our unity. These two muties alone have remained confident that their ways of life, exclusive war, and unending raids are the correct ways of our kind." He stood still and looked at the crowd, then spoke in a whisper. "Are they correct?" "No!" came the inevitable response, loud enough to deafen the most sensitive members of the crowd. Keats stomped over to the levers controlling the gallows, and brought the mic close to his face when silence was again achieved. He spoke with a hushed and serious tone. but his smile never faded. Ladies and gentlemen of our unity, we have at our mercy those who do not deserve it. We find ourselves at a crossing. Do we deliver justice? And the crowd was silent. Oh, wow. I think we should read all of these. I think it's time for me to go on a bit of a reading spree. So let's save the game, and let's check out all of these and see what happens in any option that we decide to choose. Because, you know, I love seeing events and seeing what happens during different actions. So why not find out everything that could happen here? Let's see what happens if justice is delivered. Let there be justice! Keats let the mic fall to the platform as he grips the levers, one in each hand. Shale and Juggernaut look at each other with a sense of understanding, and then back to the crowd roaring for their deaths. Keats pulled with all his might and let the massive wooden levers swing back and forth before he ripped them from their foundation and flung them into the crowd. Hopefully it wasn't humans they landed on. He glanced to his right to see the now lifeless bodies of Shale and Juggernaut hanging from a thin noose of steel wire, gently swaying to the urban breeze. Leaning down to pick up the microscope, Keats turned his gaze to the crowd once more. Our unity is a fair one, our citizens are true. For all those we have conquered in the process of defending ourselves, general amnesty will be offered, and together we will move forward. For these war criminals, however, Keats gestured to the pair of corpses soaked in the cacophony of the crowd. For those who would declare our ideals of unity illegitimate, there can only be justice. Let justice rule the day, and may our unity last to the end of the world. And Keats raised his arms in resounding triumph. Well, that was idiotic. Increase your nation's strength value, and 2 guys die. Okay. So we lose... So both of those 2 guys die, and we gain strength value. Probably... We don't get much from it. But they probably deserve it. The question sometimes changes, but speed always the answer. Oh, well, that crashed the game. Yeah, sometimes with that game, looking for a game to capture. I hope you like the screen. That's the screen that pops up when your game crashes and you're recording. A little blooper here, I suppose. But yeah, for some reason, sometimes my Fallout, this Old World Blues crashes when I load a save. Kind of annoying, but oh well. I'll be back in a moment, guys. See you soon. Alright, and we're back. Shale is the true enemy. The execution of Shale. Let the true enemy of peace face his justice. Keats leaned over to let his mic gently fall to the ground. With all his strength, he slammed the right lever to the unlocked position. Shale's eyes closed as he plunged to the breaking point, and Juggernaut let out a sigh of relief when he heard the snap at the end. Leaning down to pick up the microphone, Keats turned his gaze to the crowd once more. Our unity must remain a balanced one in all things, Keats spoke to the roaring throng. Juggernaut's tactics were savage, but they were motivated by a sense of duty. To participate in a war someone else started. Shale, on the other hand, was instigator of every trouble the past decade has given rise to. Through his death, we may yet return to a policy of peace, building our strength all the while. We must remember when to show mercy, and we must remember when the guilty must face the consequences of our actions. The crowd's cheering started to die down, but it was swiftly replaced by a chant. Keats! 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 All Keats could do was stand tall and take it. While a handful of guards removed the noose from Juggernaut's neck and led him away, Keats smiled, all the wider by the balanced results of his choice, and elsewhere in the crowd, an old friend smiled back. That's for 53. Increase your nation's balance value. Alright. Now, let's check out the third option. I'm definitely prepared to have this crash. So if I end recording and meet back up with you in just a moment, That's why. So, yeah. ... Come on. Come on. You're working so far? Come on. Don't crash. Don't crash. No crash. No crash. Only Juggernaut is a savage. Let the true savage of Texas face his justice. Keats leaned over to let his mic gently fall to the ground, and with all his strength, he slammed the left lever into the unlocked position. Juggernaut let out a yelp before the wire tightened and snapped his neck, prompting a satisfied cheer from the crowd. Shale, however, remained dignified and upright. Our unity must remain balanced, one in all things. Keats spoke to the roaring throng. Though Shale was the true instigator of the war he spent so long fighting, he did so from a true and genuine wish to fulfill the legacy of Eudster. He was bested in martial might, and thus failed, but he may yet serve a purpose in the future of a unity, if it is his wish to learn our ways. Shale spit at the platform, and a few jeers went up from the crowd, but most respected Keats' speech. Juggernaut, on the other hand, was an animal no better than the lowest raider or feral ghoul. It was all by him that the most destructive was wrought, and it is through his death that we may yet return to a policy of peace, building our strength all the while. We must remember when to show mercy. We must remember when the guilty must face the consequences of their actions. A lighter round of cheers and applause went up from the crowd as Shale was removed from the gallows and led away. It wasn't the turnout most of the crowd was expecting, but most were satisfied with its conclusion. Keats smiled all the while as the balanced results of the choice, and elsewhere in the crowd an old friend smiled back. Let's pick up the pieces. Increases your nation's balance value. And let's look at the last option that we got here. And let's see if that's our option we decide to choose, or if we go with one of the options we've already seen. I'm interested to see if these come back to play an impact in the future, and if so, in what way. Contact your narcissist ranger outpost for... Oh my goodness. I love that. True unity must show peace. First, let me go and see what's the effects of each one. The actual thing. Justice achieved. Jail executed. Now you're unexecuted. The fact that these ones all only give motorized vehicles, which I don't really even care about, is kind of annoying, but let's see. The Unity's Mercy. Keats pressed his left hand against the lever on his left and against the right lever on his right. Then he sauntered away from the levers and towards the front of the platform. There's a time and a place for justice, Keats spoke in a low voice in a microphone, but now is the time for something else. Now is the time for mercy. On the outer fringes of the crowd, Keats noticed a handful of mutants wandering away from the city center, but the crowd remained silent as a crypt. Allow me to explain, Keats began. Our unity was founded through violence, and has been sustained through violence. We pushed cannibals and raiders out of our city, we've kept the borders secure and our streets clean, and through all of it, we've stood up for ourselves and our friends whenever and wherever possible. But what point is there in further bloodshed? He gestured to the two stupor mutants standing in the nooses. Juggernaut almost looked hopeful, his head raised and focused on the crowd's hesitant clapping. Shale, by contrast, found himself unsneakingly chuckling. The unity of Austin has had to fight for its survival against every threat in the waste, and it is ever as likely we have to do so again. But here and now we have an opportunity we have never had before and will not have again. We have a chance to bring together the remnants of Eudster's great conquest and to forge them together into a unity so great that it would make the master cry tears of pride. With that, the crowd began to openly cheer again. Woo! Yeah! At least a portion of it is convinced by Keats. Together we will build something far greater than anything that has come before us, and we will be remembered for all time as the unity that proved there can yet be peace in a world of war. Keats raised his arms in triumph, and the crowd once again reached a fever pitch, fully brought into the new ideas Keats was proposing. For unity, he shouted one last time, and he was met with a deafening applause. Still chuckling. Shale was pulled from the gallows and led away. Juggernaut was also removed, but Keats noticed something had shifted in the technician's eye. For the first time, Juggernaut was forced to consider the confusing idea of mercies. Keats smiled all the wider for that thought. Somewhere in the crowd, a confused but amused friend smiled back. Hopefully they learned something today. I think I'm going to actually stay with this path, even though it's not... Oh, wow, that gives you way too many unity. But I still kind of want to do it, just because it seems so interesting. Like, just let them both just chill. Like, it seems like it's such a horrible idea, and it probably is, but I kind of want to do it. I feel like it could go really poorly. What's the thing for it? After the end of the three-way war for unity, we made the decision to not hang Shale or Juggernaut. Some members of the crowd were disappointed when Keats refrained from letting their necks snap, but by and large, the majority of our population grew just a little bit kinder from the lesson he gave up on that platform. Sometimes when victory has already been achieved, and when there is no need for further bloodshed, justice may make for mercy. It gives me a lot of stability, though, which is also nice. I'll stay with that. Yeah, I'll keep that results. And I'm going to, but, let's see. What gives you more strength? Because I do kind of want to still do strength. But I also don't know if I can, because it's like, it is the question. It really is the question. Because I love the idea of that path. You know what I'm gonna do? Let's not make a save quite less. Let's just load back up that save in the next episode, and we'll decide then. I suppose this will be the end of this episode then, and we'll figure out what we want to do in the next episode. If you enjoyed, like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell button. And as always, peace.